welcome, welcome. We're happy you're here. We host these every single Thursday throughout the school year from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Zoom. They're always free to join. We just think it's important for school leaders to have a safe space to come together and discuss different leadership topics. Oftentimes, you can't discuss things with your staff or people in your school because you're the one who has to be the decision maker. So it's good to have a group to come together and discuss different topics. I always plan these around your request. So if there's ever a topic you'd like to see at a future town hall, you can reach out to me. I'll share my email later at the end of the presentation, so you can reach out to me if you have any topics you'd love to request, or if you want to join one of our town halls as a speaker. Oftentimes at our town halls, we do have a speaker, but today we're just going to do an open forum. So this is very much a space for you to comment. You can share your ideas. You can unmute yourself. You can use the chat. So this is very much all about, sharing and exchanging ideas. Today's topic is parent commitments. We're going to focus on how your Montessori school can really have a more involved parent community. We know this is important in school leadership because parents who are more involved are ones who are really truly living your mission. They're the ones who understand Montessori philosophy that little bit more, and they're usually the ones who are going to end up staying in your community for longer, so it's going to improve your retention. So there's a lot of value to having more committed parents. So let's go ahead and get started with today's town hall / open forum. So here's just a brief overview of everything we're going to be covering today. And like I said, because we don't have a speaker today and we're just going to be sharing resources, strategies, feel free to, at any point in the call, use the chat or unmute yourself to join in the conversation. We'll start with a brief little getting to know each other. Then we'll dive into different parent commitments that you can offer, how you can introduce these to families, how you can set those expectations early on, how you can include clauses in your parent handbook for parent commitments, parenting classes and workshops. How can you get parents involved? How can you make sure that they actually attend? This can be challenging sometimes. And while we can't guarantee that after this call, you'll have 100% attendance, hopefully you'll take away some more strategies to increase that attendance and get parents really involved in your parenting classes and workshops if you offer them at your school, because it's really worthwhile. So again, encouraging that attendance. Also, parent associations. This is a huge part of parent involvement. If you have parent associations at your school, or if you're looking to set some up, we'll give you some tips on that as well. And then we'll be sharing different platforms that you can encourage parents to join in on. And we'll share some resources with you as well that will hopefully help you with parent involvement and communication. And we'll share some creative ways to get involved. And there'll be plenty of time for Q&A and discussion at the end. First things first, though, I'd love to get to know each other. I'd love for you to introduce your school and why you joined today's call. Are you looking for ways to improve parent involvement at your school? What are some challenges that you're facing in this area? Again, you can use the chat or you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I'll go first. My name's Marnie. I'm the head at White Bear Montessori School in Minnesota. I feel like this generation post-COVID of family is different than in the past. I've been doing this for about 15 years, and people embraced Zoom really well during COVID. But now they don't want to come to anything physically, and now Zoom isn't as exciting as it once was. And a lot of our parents have never, ever used a babysitter. So there's that hurdle to also overcome. So those are what our challenges are.
Thank you, Marnie. I see here Cheryl in the chat from Seven Oaks, looking to increase parent engagement and involvement on site. Okay. Is anyone else experiencing what Marnie's experiencing, like post-COVID? There's a shift in attitude, and I know Zoom has definitely slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, my name is Janet Shanahan. I'm with Monzio Montessori. Actually, I'm semi-retired and live in New York State, but I'm still very connected to the school. And I'm actually the one who has done parenting for the last few years. Last year, all in person. Of course, this year I did go in actually last week in person, but the whole school had COVID, so it didn't happen. But so I'm going to be doing it via Zoom. But I found very similar to what you're referring to as far as the interest level has kind of waned in the last few years. I think actually last year was much better for us. And I think some of the success was I would email staff a day or two before my seminar and the day of the seminar to reiterate to the parents, remember, you're supposed to go and see Miss Janet, the parent education. It's kind of drumming it to them that sometimes it's almost, I don't know, maybe a guilt trip, but they did come, and I got more than I've ever had in the past, like 30 parents at each session, which for us, that's big. Many times it was 5 or 8. So I did change it up last year to not have it at school in small chairs. I had it out at one of the parents who owns a business. I had her kids years ago, and right in town with adult chairs and wine and cheese at the end, kind of made it a night out for them too, in addition. So I don't know. I think that helped a little bit, but I certainly know what you're saying when it seems like this generation or more less likely to have sitters for their kids. But that was the other thing I did too. I asked one of my staff members, one of our younger ones, to babysit at our school, and that was a big help because I felt very comfortable with Tori. So that and actually, if I knew the people who were coming, I would kind of look at the teacher in that class and say, hey, maybe you could come in for a little bit so they feel comfortable, and that was a draw. So that helped.
That's great, Janet. Thank you. We have a couple more people here in the chat. I see Chelsea from South Coast Montessori, hoping to get more parents involved in the school and activities and growing our community. Victoria from Bozeman Montessori, here to learn ways to better connect and partner with the parent community, helping parents see and feel that we are a community is always our goal. And Mona here from the Renaissance International School, we want to explore different mediums and ways to communicate and connect with parents. Okay, great. So hopefully we'll have some takeaways. We'll be sharing some strategies and resources and pausing for conversation and idea exchanges throughout. So great. Thank you all for introducing yourselves and sharing a little bit about where you land on this. I see one more here. Denise from Oak Meadow Montessori. Would love to be able to encourage parents to get to know one another. Absolutely. Okay, great. So first things first, I think you really want to start out with having a great mission. Most schools already do this because this is something that is kind of foundational to building your school. So if you've been around for a while, I'm sure that you've taken a lot of time to create a great mission statement and make that clear to all of your families. But I think that it's important for you to make it a part of your mission that you're more than just a school, you're really a community, and you offer so much, not only to the children, but to families as well. You want children to thrive, but you want parents and caregivers to thrive as well. I think when this is part of your mission statement or your vision, it really helps families understand that you're more than just a place where they're going to drop off their kids and then come pick them up when they're done with work. So I think this just helps to set the tone. So maybe consider, adding it to your vision or your school website that, you're all about community if you don't already have that as part of your mission statement. So parent commitments, I think this is a great way to help set those expectations from early on. They, just outline what you expect in terms of the parents that enroll at your school. So obviously they have expectations for your school. You need to have expectations for them as well. So you can outline the parent events throughout the year. This is great that if you add that on a form, you can list out everything that you do throughout the year to offer parenting support or events that parents can engage with, connect with, socials, potlucks. And if you outline this early on and tell parents, we want you to participate in as many of these as you can. We're not saying you need to come to all of them, but maybe set a minimum and understand that this is part of joining our community is joining our community. And again, you can set those expectations in your handbook as well. In the next slide, I think, Yep, there's just a little, it's a section of a sample from our Thrive collection. We have quite a few parent commitments on there. So if you don't like this one and you're a Montessori Thrive member, I highly recommend looking through the resources, because we have a couple of these. It's kind of like a contract that parents can sign. Obviously, it's not a binding contract, but it's always nice to have families sign something that they can read through and physically have a copy of, that outlines what they're committing to when they enroll at your school. So this is just a sample of one. Again, we have several different ones. You can edit them, you can add more pages, you can add more sections. But these types of documents are great because, again, if you have a parent that really isn't involved and you're struggling with them, you can always have a meeting with them and you can say, look, this is, we expect this, and the reason why we do this and why we expect families to come to our events, to come to our parenting classes, is so that the child benefits, because when they're getting similar messages at home and at school, it really just makes for a better experience. So these are the type of documents that you can have early on in that enrollment process so that they know from the beginning what's expected of them. So if you don't already do this, this is just an option that you can have. But yeah, and again, we have several different copies of different parent commitment forms on Montessori Thrive. So if you're a member, I recommend looking through that. I think it's under the enrollment section of our resource library. So if you go under there, you'll find parent commitment forms that you can download, edit, tweak, and you can have this as part of your enrollment process. Another thing you can have is a philosophical agreement. This is more for schools who are looking for parents who are aligned to what they're learning in the classroom. Are they going to be delivering the same type of language at home? How are they going to approach certain situations? So I think in the collection, we have one for primary, lower elementary, and upper elementary. So this one, I think, is just a snippet of one of those. But if you really want to have a philosophical agreement, I think it's great for those families that you really want to get aligned to more aligned to your programs. For instance, I think this one is taken from the primary. So it involves a little bit of, oh, we agree to stay for that third year where everything comes together. But it's great to have these types of documents in the enrollment process, because it really lays out the expectations of, this is what you're signing up for, and this is the level of involvement that we expect. And you're entering a school parent partnership. This isn't just a place where you drop off your child and pick them up. This is very much a place where we're partnering together to build a strong educational experience for your child. So I definitely recommend taking a browse through our collection, because we have plenty of resources that connect with this. But yes, those parent commitment forms, they are really valuable to have as part of your enrollment process. It's important to just think about what you really want parents to be involved in. Do you want them to come to your parenting classes or workshops? Do you want them to come for at least one observation a year, maybe one a semester? That's part of your requirement. And lay this all out and say, this is required. We'll work with you. We'll work with your schedule to try our best to make it accessible to you, but we really feel that it's valuable. And when you enroll your child in, we expect you to prioritize this involvement as part of your commitment to us. Again, like I said, it's great to have it as a document that they can sign, because you can reference this later on if you're really struggling with a family, or they're just not getting, your model, or what the work that you're doing. You can remind them, this is what you signed when you enrolled. I'm curious to know if you utilize anything like this, any type of parent commitment form at your school. You can just say yes or no in the chat and let us know if they worked for you. I see here, Marnie, we asked some of these questions on our application. Okay. I think it's great to do that in the application stage, because that's very, very early on. So I think when you set those expectations early, parents are going to be, they're going to be expecting it a little bit more. Denise, we asked some of these questions, but don't do a lot with the information. Laura, we include this in our parent handbook. Absolutely. Okay. So it's always an option, if you feel like this is something you can implement in your enrollment process. It's just great. It can be just a one-page document, something simple, but it does make a difference. Next, going on to parent handbook. So just like someone just shared in the chat, including this information in your parent handbook is important because obviously this is what a parent is going to review when they enroll with your school, what is expected of them, code of conduct, etc. Here, Janet says we use a parent commitment form and it's very useful, especially if you're dealing with sensitive issues. That's great. And that's why it's great to have a signed document and you say, this is what you signed up for. And we don't do it to, make your life hard. We do it to better your experience with our school and your child's experience with our school. So you can really benefit from having a physical document like that, especially when things get delicate. Sorry, was someone going to say something? I wasn't sure if I heard something. No. All right, so parent handbooks. It's great to lay out these expectations in the parent handbook as well. How many parents actually reference a parent handbook throughout the year? Not many, but it's great to have it there in writing. Again, this is a great place where you can include an outline of annual parent events. How many are parents expected to join in? Maybe you have an attendance minimum. I think this is great to set so that parents who maybe don't attend that minimum maybe feel a little bit guilty or like they could be doing more. You don't have to maybe enforce it as much, but just say, we expect you to participate in at least 60 to 70% of these events a year. You don't have to do all of them. We know it's busy. We know that, a lot of families have, 2 caregivers who are working nowadays. So it can be challenging, but we'll do our best to accommodate to you and you need to do your best to attend. And then discuss the importance of observations. I think this is probably the most important thing is for those schools to have parents come and observe at least once or twice a year. And these should be absolutely mandatory. So, when parents enroll, you need to make sure these are a necessity. We only ask once a year, one day a year for a couple of hours, but this is absolutely crucial so that you can understand how your child is doing in the classroom. There's a lot of value to this. So this is a non-negotiable when you come to our school. So you can include all this information in your parent handbook. I recommend doing a page that's like a parent commitment page or parent expectation page in your parent handbook that you can again reference if there's any issues later on. Here's just a sample of a parent commitment clause from a parent handbook that we have on Montessori Thrive. And again, you can add to these or edit them, but just including a little clause or something like this can really be beneficial. Because you can, again, reference this if you have a parent that's just really checked out, doesn't come to the observations. And usually those are sometimes the children who are giving us the most challenges in the classroom because they're not receiving the same messages at home. So those are the parents usually that you want at those events. Any questions, thoughts? Okay. Next is parenting classes and workshops. I think this is usually the main challenge when it comes to parent involvement, especially what Marnie said at the beginning about, nowadays people are zoomed out. It's hard to get parents to show up. Maybe they're not as comfortable as previous generations with getting a babysitter. So it's a little bit more challenging. So how can we get those families to attend our parenting classes and workshops? Because we're putting a lot of time and effort into them, and there's a lot of value in those parents that do show up to these classes. So let's go over some strategies to hopefully help with attendance. Number 1 is having effective communication. It's almost to the point where you have to over communicate because parents don't read their emails. Parents don't look on social, like not every parent is going to look at every single piece of information that you release. Unfortunately, we wish that they would be a little bit more on top of the messaging, but realistically in our experience, that's not the case. So you want to make sure to have all of your bases covered so that they understand they at least hear you on one of those channels. So it's important to provide clear and timely communication about upcoming events through various channels, including email. So if you have a newsletter, or you can just send an individual email for an event that's coming up, SMS reminder. So if you're using a CRM, a client relationship manager, or some type of Remind 101 tool, I highly recommend utilizing SMS reminders. Your school website as well. If you have maybe an events calendar page on your school website, that's great. So parents can always reference this year round. And also just to announce and promote any of your workshops and events on social media. Is every parent going to see every single message? No. But it's important to just have that information easily accessible. I think it's also important to maybe have an orientation at the beginning of the year or something like that, where you can release an annual calendar and you can outline every single event throughout that year, so the parent can mark it on their calendar from early on. And they can figure out which ones they can come to and which ones they can't come to. Again, setting a minimum requirement for attendance and participation. So say you have 5 parenting events per year, the minimum, you have to come to 3. Minimum expectation. If you don't come to 3, we'll have a one-on-one meeting or something. We'll set something up so that we can discuss what you missed, or you can maybe watch the recording and send us your notes from the class, something like that. But there is a minimum attendance or participation level required of all of the parents. I also recommend utilizing flyers and creative reminders. I think people sometimes forget to do this now because we're so used to just announcing things through technology, but old-fashioned ways are still effective. So handing out flyers during carpool. There was a school a couple years ago that said they wear t-shirts, like reminder t-shirts during carpool, so that, it's something bright and, oh, by the way, tomorrow we have a parenting class. Tomorrow, we expect you to come. So just get creative and try to come up with fun ways to remind parents, because oftentimes you're going to have to do many, many reminders, unfortunately. Another element is accessibility. So various times and childcare options is going to be big, especially with what Marnie said about the babysitters. I don't know what it is, but I think it, maybe it's the cost of babysitting nowadays. Maybe it's after COVID, people just don't feel comfortable leaving, their kids with someone who, isn't part of the household. There could be several reasons for it, but it is real. It could be a challenge. So maybe offering childcare options during meetings. So maybe open up one of your classrooms and see if a guide or an assistant is willing to work, an extra hour that day. And you can offer some activities for the kids while the parents are in the other room taking their parenting class. Something like this can help. I know some schools have done this and it's been successful. So that's an option. Or you can also provide both in-person and virtual options. Again, people are zoomed out, but it's still great to offer a variety of options, because again, a parent can be listening in while they're cooking dinner or they're doing something else at home. So it's not so much of a commitment for them to have to actually go to the school physically, maybe organize a sitter or bring their children along and disrupt their nighttime routine or their afternoon routine. So it's good to offer a virtual option. What you can also do is you can record your sessions. And again, if those parents who don't show up, maybe, take an attendance list. Those parents who don't join the live, tell them, please watch it back by this date and send us just a couple of notes that you took away so that we know that you watched the class recording. We understand that, you may not have had the time that day, but maybe within the next 2 weeks, you have time to just sit down for 45 minutes and send us your notes or something like that. Susan says here, we offer childcare and the in-person parent sessions, which includes a light pizza and veggie dinner for the children. That's great, because that really offers an incentive for parents to come. Their kids are getting free dinner. They're going to walk away with a lot of, great parenting resources after their session. So, finding ways to offer that childcare and making it more accessible is going to increase involvement and attendance.
We've also, our head of school and myself are trying to come up with developing actually babysitting lists of past alumni who are in high school.
Oh, wow.
Because if we trust them and then pass that on to the parents, a lot of them are very willing to try that. We have probably 2 or 3 right now, and that's worked really well. Obviously with the Montessori background, they feel they've been connected to the school, so there's a certain amount of we trust them, so they trust them. So that helps a little bit with some parents who really never leave their children much with anyone. They're very, I understand it, they're very nervous and whatever, but that's been a help a little bit.
That's great. I think that's, that's very Montessori to then have an older Montessori kid looking up. And it's great for the older children as well, because they're getting jobs and yeah, they're staying in touch with the community. So that's beneficial. That's great. Another thing you can do for accessibility is offer different times. So maybe, evenings don't work for everyone. Maybe offer one event as a morning session or something like that. So figure out what kind of schedules the majority of your community has and see how you can accommodate. We can never accommodate everyone 100%, but it's great to see, what works for your community, but offering, ways to be accessible. I love Janet's input on, creating an alumni babysitter list. That's great. Offering childcare or dinners is another incentive. But yeah, maybe families just need that extra bit of incentive to show up. Yeah, any other ideas for accessibility or things that people do for just to make it a little bit easier for parents to attend? You could also just post your recordings on maybe you have a Facebook group for parents, and you can post them on YouTube as unlisted videos and post them on the group privately. And you can make them just accessible as possible. And again, I like the idea of those parents who, they're not going to come to the live session. We'll require them to do some homework. So that way, that they've seen the content at least. Maybe they didn't come to the live where they could ask those questions, with other parents and be a part of that, but they can at least take away from the class. Another idea is personal invites, and you can have your guides do this. You can, maybe during carpool or leading up to an event, you can have each teacher send out short personal invites to each family about parenting events. Maybe this is for your more all-in events, maybe a workshop that you really want parents to attend. I know one that a lot of schools are doing now is positive discipline. This is a great one to send out a personal invite and be like, this is a really important event for you to attend because this is how we communicate to the children in the classroom and we want them to receive the same messages. So please, we're sending you out a personal invite. Please RSVP. So we have a list of those who are going to attend. And then if you're not going to attend, we're going to send you a list of we're going to send you a recording and a little assignment to fill out afterwards. So hopefully that the threat of an assignment will encourage them. And it could be something short, what were 3 main takeaways from this class? It doesn't have to be anything long, but just so that that they've seen the material. They may not have come in person, which is ultimately the best thing because that's what's going to build that community, but at least they've seen the material that you've put together.
Another mention too is it always seems historically at our school, we get the parents in who don't need it much.
Right.
It's the ones that, really like you to be there kind of thing. I've tried to tell staff last year, and I think that was maybe some of the success, some of the families that they know and I know really would benefit, that they would particularly one I did on language and how staff mentioned to parents, Mason's had a hard time communicating on the playground. Janet's talking about language. Maybe you should come. I do think things like that are personal, it's not a negative on the son. It's just, we're just trying to support you. And we notice that, that this might help you with things. And, a lot of times they'll say, oh, you're right. He's really not really kind to my younger sibling. And that kind of, sometimes I think puts in their head that maybe I should come. So I don't know, but.
Yeah, I think a gentle nudge sometimes can be helpful too. And it doesn't have to come across as negative can just be like, we're offering resources to help with this.
Right.
And, you know, we'd love you to come. We would love for you to come over and just come to the session. Hopefully they won't take it too personally, but yeah, those types of things are helpful, I think. The personal invites or, yeah. All right.
One thing I was going to suggest too is, even though I know there are certain topics that we definitely want to communicate about, but to maybe survey your parents and say, what are you struggling with at home, so that you can provide the parenting education that would be really helpful for them. And then you can always, well, if you get them in the door, you can cover that topic, but you can slip in the other things too that you know that are important to cover. And then this is, you know, the marketer talking in me, but, you know, and try to come up with like catchy titles for what that parent is about, you know, like something that's going to get their attention, you know, that like how to deal with those tantrums in the grocery store or something, you know, whatever it is, but something that's going to really kind of hook them a little bit and make them read more and maybe want to come. So I guess that's just my 2 cents of, you know, kind of getting them in the door is the hard part. And once they're there and you've got them, then you can deliver the messages that you know, and have that sort of interaction that you want to have with the parents.
Absolutely. Market your events well and make them enticing. You know, they should solve a parenting problem. Another thing you can do is have parent ambassadors. So you can utilize your parent community to help. And usually we have an idea of, you know, what parents are really living our mission. Again, these are usually the parents who don't need to be coming to the classes, but they're great recruiters. So maybe this is someone who's part of your parent association or in charge of helping you plan events. Maybe you have a parent on your board who is just really involved in the school, and you can have someone, you know, really recruiting new families to come and join these classes. Maybe they're leading a parent group for your school on Facebook. Maybe they send out, you know, flyers, or they post something on your social media. So you can have an actual parent in your community just be an ambassador and share, you know, these classes are worth it. They really help me solve a problem at home. They're really helping, you know, my child not only in the classroom, but at home. So definitely utilize your parent community. We usually have a good sense of who these parents are. And oftentimes they come and ask how they can be more involved in our school life. So you can always give them some assignments, be like, look, we really want parents to come to our classes. Do you have any ideas how we can help? And this also gives you insight as to what today's parents are feeling, because this is an actual parent in real time. You know, they know what's going on right now. So maybe they feel the post-COVID blues, or they understand, you know, oh yeah, there's a lot of concern with hiring babysitters nowadays. And so they can help you find strategies to recruit those parents to come and join your classes. So definitely utilize parent ambassadors if you can. Another thing is collaborative planning. I think this goes in with what Camille was mentioning about passing out those surveys and getting parents involved with what topics they want to discuss. You know, what formats work best for them. Do they prefer virtual? Do they prefer in person? Do they, you know, would it be easier for them to come if there was that childcare option? So you can, you know, involve them in the planning process. If what you're doing right now just isn't working or people aren't coming, you can see, you know, what classes are beneficial. What kind of topics do you actually want to learn more about? So yeah, you can do a Google survey. You can use SurveyMonkey. You can use a variety of different platforms to collect information and data and say, look, we're running the survey so that we know what kind of parenting classes to offer next year. What kind of topics would you like to see in the future? What format would you like? How can we better improve parent attendance in your opinion? So you can create a survey like this. Does anyone do something like this at their school? You can also just see what events are the most attended, and you can say these are the ones we're going to have again, and maybe the ones who parents didn't show up to this year. maybe let's re-strategize and pick a different topic. So you can also just do a self-assessment, but it's great to have a survey. Another thing is just to host parent socials. And I think that when parents are really introduced to other families in your community and they feel comfortable and they feel like they can just make friends and talk to one another, they're more likely to then come to other events because they're like, oh, I'm going to see, I'm going to see my friend Kristen there. I'm going to see how she's doing. And then we'll get to learn together and we'll catch up. So, it creates a stronger community. So there's a variety of different events that you can host that their main focus is not necessarily to just teach them about parenting, but just to connect and bring parents together. So you can have something like a book club where you can discuss various parenting books, but it can be a very casual social setting where people come together, they can share their experiences or takeaways from the books, and you can maybe have some snacks or a meal. Coffee meets, maybe one Monday a month or something like that. You can offer free coffee at a little coffee station at Carpool where parents can drop their kids off, go have a coffee and catch up with one another. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but just a place for people to connect. Again, when people make friends at your school, they're just more likely to show up to social events and feel like they're a part of the community, feel more comfortable showing up to parenting classes. They feel a little bit less intimidated. Potlucks are also great. And this is great because you can ask parents to just bring their own food. It's very little planning on your part. And you can do this maybe once a year at the beginning of the year or towards the end of the year, whichever you think will be the most beneficial. And yeah, just have parents come together and meet one another. That you can do this by classroom or you can do this by program. But I think it's really nice to just bring families together over some food and conversation. You can host this at your school or you can do this at a park or somewhere like that. It can be something fun. And then fairs or festivals. I know throughout the year, many schools host a variety of different, just fun events for parents to come and join in on. But again, it can just be about fun for them to experience with their children and with other parents. But hosting these sorts of events, they're going to help with attendance overall, I think. Anything else? Any other type of events that you've hosted at your school?
We've done last year, we did an ice cream social with an ice cream truck coming up just on our playground at the end of the year. And it went over really, parents, we had good attendance and a lot of parents really felt like we did it the year before. And then Terry did it again this year. And it was very, very well attended. And it was a nice opportunity for parents to get together. And also their kids were there. So they kind of, they were, and we also did it by class. So they weren't like in the whole group. They were kind of within the group that their children are in, which I think was worked out well. And we also do, which we've toyed about stopping, but a parent work day on a Saturday morning in the fall and the spring, where dads come and help us move wood chips and or clean in the classroom or whatever. But it's a nice opportunity for parents to clean together. We kind of term it, or that particularly I've seen with dads, if we get a good turnout, which we have, they're much more likely to be more open to, say, a fair or an auction to come because they know a couple of dads. It's just, I know, 2 or 3 of them said to me at the last auction, this was so nice to walk in and, I knew somebody there. And he said, I don't like to do that. So I think any kind of community thing you can get them talking and at least they feel they're part of it is very important. So.
Absolutely. At my school, we used to have a gardening day.
That's
I think we did it on a Saturday. And yeah, parents would come and it was just fun. Like they would connect and they would help, make the school look beautiful. And we would provide, snacks, and then they could bring their kids. The kids could play on the playground or help with the gardening, depending on how engaged they were with that. But yeah, there's just a variety of events and you can be creative. I see here in the chat, Denise, most of our festivals and large parent gatherings are initiated by parents with staff member as an advisor to ensure it's keeping with our mission, because the parents organizing it, they encourage other parents to attend and get involved. Our community has grown much stronger thanks to these parents and organized events. Absolutely. And it's great to get the parents involved because, again, they're going to know how to connect with other parents. They're experiencing what everyone else is experiencing as a parent. So it's great to have them really at the forefront of planning and selecting your events. And I like the idea of having that staff member there just to oversee everything, but really letting the parents, handle the meat of it.
I did a survey after COVID, because COVID, put a lot of kibosh on events. And I took this opportunity to ask our staff, my board, and a select group of parents who've been with us a very long time, who knew our traditions, to retain, refresh, or retire. And I put in the survey every single event that we do in the calendar year. Is it time to retire this? Can we refresh it? Do you have ideas how to refresh it? Or is this a don't ever get rid of, keep it forever? So we had a fall hoedown for decades. Personally, I hate the hoedown. So I was really hoping and glad that when it was voted to retire it and refresh it as a trunk or treat instead, which really turned the amount of work on its head for the staff, because the parents bring their trunk. That's the event. I might bring in a magician to do like a 30-minute magic show, but the work for the office is so much more minimal than the hoedown used to be. So that trunk or treat's great. But yeah, refresh, retain, or retire. And we got to change up our calendar a little bit after decades of the same thing every year.
I love that. Retain, refresh, or retire. That's a really simple survey to fill out as well.
Yep.
3 options. Make it really easy.
And if you want to refresh it, how, right? I don't want to hear refresh it. I want you to tell me how we would do that.
No, that's great. Because obviously, things change, there's different challenges with every generation. So it's great to keep getting those ideas directly from the source. Great. Another way, I think this really helps with parent involvement, is to recognize those parents the ones who are really planning, helping you plan, helping you, and going above and beyond, to recognize them. You don't have to do this publicly. You can just do this privately, but, giving them a thank you card or a small gift or a token of your appreciation, goes a long way. And just provide a reward for families who attend every parenting event. So if you see a parent who has really made an effort to come to every single class or to be really involved, pull them aside and be like, we've really noticed a difference. It's been great to see, you be so involved in our community and taking advantage of all of our events, and offer them a private thank you, encourage involvement in your school. You can create some consequences for families. And by consequences, I mean very light ones. You don't want to be too firm, but again, like the assignments, or maybe a one-on-one meeting for parents who missed out on a lot of the parenting events. So you can hand them the resources, but face-to-face, so you can walk them through, I recommend you take a look at this because you missed this parenting class, and this one is really, really the most important. So we really recommend you read this, and you can talk about it on a one-on-one meeting, but you can have something to follow up for those parents who really aren't coming to the events. I'd love to know what you do to increase attendance. I know we've discussed so many different ways, but if you have anything that we missed, feel free to drop that in the chat or unmute yourselves. But it's really about being creative and adaptable.
Our first evening event, parent ed event of the year, was about 2 weeks ago. And I chose to not do anything Montessori specific. I brought in a behavioral analyst who does a talk on solving your child's sleep disruptions. And based on our applications and all of our new families, we identified that there's a lot of shared family beds happening, lot of family beds with children a little old for that. So we knew that would be a hot topic, and the attendance was pretty good. Wasn't fantastic, but it's probably better than the last 2 years has been, because the topic was so relevant. And the way I promoted it was how to make sure your whole family is sleeping at night. Because if you're sharing a family bed with 3 kids, you're not sleeping. So just by changing up the topic that we started the year off with, I think made a difference for us versus something that was Montessori specific or, pedagogy heavy. Something that was just talking right to 3 a.m. mom. Yeah.
I think it's great to offer, ones that again are the hot topics, the really the popular things that parents want to discuss. It's great to have the pedagogy talks as well so that they understand, what we're doing in the classroom, but what is actually going to change things at home for them. That's what's going to reel them in, I think, a little bit more. So I think that's great to just focus on those hot topics.
We've also tried at our school in the last year, and I may have mentioned it before, but it's really helped. I do a Montessori Zoom with all new families, and I expect both parents to be on the Zoom. And if one can't, then I just reschedule so I can get both of them. But I found it very interesting because Terry and I have both seen and taken parents through the tour. We're talking a lot about Montessori, a little, obviously, but they're looking at the classroom, they're looking how their child's going to fit. They're not really listening and don't know much about the school. And we don't really learn that much about them. So it's been very helpful to find out what parents do, give the history on the school, the history on the staff, what our mission is. One-on-one to them, that I think I found I've drawn more parents to my parent seminars because of that, but also too, you learn a lot about the families, and you're talking about children sleeping with one in bed. I had one parent, he kind of copped on her and said, well, he sleeps in our bed and he's almost 4. And, obviously it was just interesting information for me, which also helped me realize that, if we can get them into the parent seminar, the independence of the child, etc. But I found that parents really open up and chat with you, particularly if they're new to the school, they don't know anything about Montessori. They do know if they've read something, they know something about the expectations, but just the one-on-one conversation, I don't know, I think has helped.
Yeah, that's I think it's maybe they're a little bit more comfortable opening up on that one-on-one.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Great.
I was just going to add one thing there, and it kind of alludes to the last point that you made, and not so much about consequences if a parent doesn't attend, but just noticing. So just a follow-up email or call and say, hey, I noticed you missed our parenting event last night. Do you have any questions? And just as a parent, they might be thinking, well, they're not going to notice if I'm there or not, but then if they get that phone call from you and it's like, hey, we noticed that you weren't there, and not in a, accusatory or any kind of way, but just like, do you have any questions about what we went over? Or maybe there were some slides and can I send you those? Or, just to kind of acknowledge that you noticed that they weren't there and follow up with them that way. I think that might be enough to make them think about, maybe I should go to the next one, So it's kind of a gentle nudge to that, we notice these things when you're not there. So that's all.
Yeah, definitely. All right, a great way to have a more involved parent community is to build a strong parent association. If you have a PA group already and it's running smoothly, then great. But if you don't and you want some tips, here are just some ways that you can you can discuss, you can create a stronger PA group. So first and foremost is having clarity. Ensure that parents are really well informed about the existence of your PA group, or just that there is a way for them to get more involved with your school if they want to. I recommend using various communication channels such as newsletters, emails, school website. It's also great to have maybe a PA group on Facebook or on some type of platform where people can connect just by logging on. But really, you want to make it easy for parents to get involved. There should be no minimum entry. Like any parent who wants to contribute, even if they can contribute an hour of their time or, a whole day at a time, they should be able to participate in some way if they want to. I'm going to make sure you create a welcoming environment. Make your parent association really inclusive and emphasize that all parents are invited and valued regardless of their involvement and experience with Montessori. It's great to have a PA code of conduct. Make sure again that your mission is clear when parents join the PA. This is just a place for parents who want to be more involved in school life to participate, and make sure that families understand the purpose and goals of your PA. This is maybe you're a nonprofit and a part of it is fundraising. Maybe it's just helping with school volunteer things. So you can have a variety of different goals and activities for parents to do. If you're looking for a resource to help with creating a good PA, I recommend having parent association bylaws. We have this in our Montessori Thrive collection. It's great to have for an orientation and onboarding of new families. So if you're recruiting new PA members every year, you can just have this so that parents understand how it works, what the roles are, what expectations are. So it's just a great resource. You can print that out, you can make edits, you can download it if you're a Montessori Thrive member. But it's great to have a little orientation session. And again, you can make it a social, you can make it fun and lighthearted. You don't have to make it serious or very formal. It's actually probably better to do something just casual and offer some food or drinks, and just give parents a chance to connect with each other and get to know one another. It's also great to have defined roles and responsibilities. I think especially for the parents who are really, really wanting to be involved, give them a job, give them responsibilities. Maybe you have a parent who's in charge of, recruiting parents for your parenting event, or maybe you have really official roles like president, treasurer, etc. Create diverse opportunity for parents and parents who want to volunteer. So again, there are going to be families who aren't going to be able to commit a lot of time. And then there are those who are going to be able to commit a whole lot of their time. Maybe there's a mom that doesn't work and she really wants to be more involved with the school. So you have a mixed bag. So it's great to have a variety of jobs and roles that parents can fill regardless of their availability. So think of different ways that families can contribute. There are multiple ways that parents can help the school from a remote location. Maybe it's creating graphics or flyers. They can do that from home. They don't have to come to school. They can do that on their own time. So all of these little things that you can think of to get parents more involved, they don't all have to be in person. And then you will have those parents who do want to contribute more in person. But offer some flexibility and be creative here with recruiting and getting parents involved with your PA. Highlighting the benefits, I think, is also great. This is for if you're really struggling to find parent volunteers or parents who want to get more involved. Again, enticing parents with just networking and social events. Like this is a place where you can come and just connect with other moms, because it's becoming harder and harder to meet people in the real world. After COVID, there's very few third spaces for young people and for young parents. So it's great to have just a place to bring parents together. Parents who join in the PA, they're going to gain a lot of insights into school activities. They're going to learn more about what we're about. They're going to be living our mission that much more. They're going to be having a positive impact on our school community. And again, it's that making of friends, I think, is probably going to be the most enticing feature. I'd love to know what you do to build a stronger PA. Usually these are the parents who you don't have issues with, but these are the ones who are always involved. But what really helps you with building a good PA, and does it help with having a better parent community? I know at our school, we just had very few meetings and they were just fun. They were fun focused. And that's what usually got parents a little bit more involved with wanting to volunteer. We'll move on quickly before we wrap up. How many platforms you can use to reach families to maximize involvement. And this is, again, just getting that word out there everywhere. We discussed this at the very beginning, but I'm just circling back because it's really important to just spread the word as much as you can. You want to utilize your school website to announce events or post your calendar, flyers, SMS, social media, banners, email newsletters, face-to-face reminders, being creative at carpool, all of these things that we mentioned earlier and are important to do if you want to make sure that parents are just aware that you're having a session or that you're having an event and that they actually show up. And then if you need resources for, anything parent communication, helping with parent involvement, we have a variety of resources. We have parent communication templates. We have the agreement templates. If you need a parent commitment form, we have that for you. We have full parent handbooks with those little clauses, enrollment agreements. We also have parenting courses like the slides. So if you need a slide deck for a parenting course, we have various templates you can download and edit as needed. And you can always request a resource to be made. So if there's a workshop that's in really high demand, you can let us know and we can see if someone else has created it or we can help you create one. So definitely take a look at Montessori Thrive. If you're a member or a Nido Marketing client, you should have access to Thrive. Also, if you're a content service subscriber with Nido Marketing, we can help you make social media posts, calendars, and flyers for your school events. If you're subscribed to that graphic design, we have a great graphic designer. He makes really great flyers and promotional graphics. So if you need help with that, you have access to someone who can do that for you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that we can, see if there's any questions or closing comments before we wrap up. Did we miss anything? I know we covered a lot. We're never going to be, unfortunately, at 100% parent involvement, but I think that there are many ways that you can try to get parents to join in your community and thrive that little bit more. So hopefully some of these strategies were helpful. Hear from Cheryl. Thank you.
When you mentioned about the content subscriber, so a normal just connected with Thrive is one thing, but the content subscriber is an additional cost if to have social media things. Okay.
Yeah. So if Montessori Thrive is just our resource membership site. So if you need like a resource, like the templates or the sample parent handbook, but if you're a content subscriber, you have access to unlimited graphic design for your school. So
actually,
okay.
Yeah, our content refers to our blogs and emails and social posts. But if you're a graphic design subscriber,
yes,
then you have access to any custom graphic design work, flyers, banners.
Let me send the link to that specific one. If you're looking for graphic design, I just sent that link for the graphic design service. I'm also going to share my email here in the chat. I said I would do that earlier. If anyone has a request for a future town hall topic, or if you would like to be a speaker at a future town hall topic for a future town hall topic, please let me know. We'd love to invite a fellow Montessori leader to lead a conversation. Next week, we're going to have a town hall on onboarding and offboarding staff. So if this is something that, you want to improve in your school, whether it's with new hires or getting people who are leaving your community, there's some best practices for offboarding your Montessori staff as well. So we'll be covering that at next week's meeting. So we look forward to that. But yes, if you have any topic requests, please let me know. I'm happy to plan these around what you guys would like to discuss. All right, any other questions, comments before we wrap up? Thank you for everyone who shared their ideas and strategies. We really appreciate your participation. Victoria says, how much is the graphic design service?
Yeah, it's $149 a month. And that's kind of like unlimited graphic design. Yeah.
All right. Well, this recording will be up later on our YouTube channel. So if you want to reference it or take any notes, feel free to check it out on the Nido Marketing YouTube channel. We post all of our town hall recordings there. And I guess we'll see you next week, hopefully, for another town hall. Until then, take care. And thank you so much for joining and sharing your ideas and strategies with us.
Thank you.